It is Tax Tuesday, and on midday, we're trying to answer your questions. What do you do if you still don't have your W-2 or other tax reporting forms? Well, joining us now is Carolyn Music with the Jackson Hewitt Tax Service. Thank you very much for joining us this midday, and let's get right to that question. What do you do if you haven't received your statements? And here it is, February the 14th.
Right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you very much.
But if you haven't received W-2s, first of all, try to contact the employer. Frequently, if you haven't, and it's already February 14th, it's because maybe the employer's closed up shop. And so if you can't get a hold of the employer, if you can get a hold of your employer, obviously tell them, and maybe it's an issue with your address has changed, or that maybe even if you haven't moved, that they have the wrong address. So that may clear it up. The second point is to contact the IRS and let them know and say, I worked, and they're going to ask you a number of questions, you know, when you worked in 2011, for this particular employer, the employer's name and address, all the information you have, and your best estimate for what your wages, your withholding, all that kind of information.
What's the best way to contact the IRS? Try to do it online, make a phone call?
In this case, I would try to call them at their 800 number. It's 800-829-1040, and call them. Now, lots of people are using that number, but they're prepared for this. And ultimately, if you still can't get any satisfaction, you can use a substitute W-2 form, which is Form 4852. And it'll walk you through that. It's fairly easy. It's maybe 2/3 of a page with some instructions on that. And again, it's going to ask you what you did to try to get your W-2 and where your estimates came from, like if you have a final pay stub, obviously. The other thing, though, is that some people may have forgotten. If you worked for a company for 2 months, and let's say it was a second job, you may have forgotten about that, and you've already filed your tax return. In that case, you need to do an amended return.
What if you only work for that company, say, one day in the year, and then you change companies? Still, you have to report that income?
That's
really?
right. When I first moved to Tidewater, I worked for a company one day, and they went out of business, didn't send me a W-2. So it happens.
You said, hey, welcome to Hampton Roads, huh?
That's right. Anyway, so you still, yes, you definitely have to include that income. And typically, there may not be any withholding on that, but you still have to include the income. And IRS, they'll help you. And at any Jackson Hewitt office, we can also help you.
Now I understand you've been helping people who've had problems with other tax companies, most notably concerns about more money tax preparers.
Unfortunately,
folks have been calling you.
Yes, calling and also coming in saying, what do I do? And what we do, first of all, is try to get the information from them. We'll take the time at no charge to go through and tell them what their tax return really should look like. And many of them have some idea of what they were told the refund would be, even if it was only on a sticky note or something, as you guys have reported. Frequently, the refunds are lower than what they were told they were going to be. And that's because maybe information was falsified potentially. And I don't want to say anything about another company until things are proven, but we're seeing a lot of people who are coming in and say, what do I do now?
Could the person, the taxpayer, be in trouble?
Not in trouble in terms of like an arrest or something like that, but potentially in trouble in terms of if their refund was, let's say, $2,000 more than it was supposed to be, and they've already cashed that check. Some of them have received the money and have cashed the checks, and they're going to owe that $2,000 back to the IRS.
Wow, this can get real sticky, but it's good news to know that if that person has some questions, they can give you a call or come on by the office.
Absolutely.
Or set up an appointment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any Jackson Hewitt office, we'd be happy to help.
All right. And now, any other advice for folks who are getting their forms together and are preparing to come to you to file?
I would say just have as many documents as possible as backup. You don't necessarily need to show us. For instance, with your child care, we don't need to see your weekly receipts that you paid for child care. You can give us a total. We're not auditing you, but know that if IRS were to audit you, you would have to be able to prove that you paid that amount. So make sure you have all your documents together.
And with your, if you have had any capital gains, if you sold some stock, or if your stock increased in value?
Correct. Well, if the stock increased in value but you didn't sell it, then good for you. But if you sold it, the main thing with sale of stock is you need to know the basis. And the brokers these days are doing a much better job of including that information, what your basis is, than they did 5 years ago, say.
Carolyn Busick with Jackson Hewitt, thank you very much.
Thanks, Don.
I think you put a lot of folks at ease this midday. Now, here is how you can get in touch with Jackson Hewitt if you have more questions. 1-800-234-1040, or you can go online to WAVY.com and you'll find our tax tip page and a link. And a Jackson Hewitt tax expert will remain here at WAVY to answer your tax questions. And they will be in contact with you. Just log on to our website, WAVY.com. You'll find the link and the online chat. All right, we'll be back here next Tuesday with Jackson Hewitt. And until then, you can give them a call at 1-800-234-1040 to answer your tax questions.